One of the things I noticed in the comment section from this news article where I found this video is people were asking, why don't schools do background checks? You gotta do background checks, do background checks. Well, here's the problem. If there's nothing to pull up on a report, like the guy's never been arrested or anything like that, even if he's been in the hospital, that's HIPAA. So even if he's been in the hospital for mental health illnesses, the district would never know about that. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. And if you are someone that was returning, thank you for coming back. Today's video is going to be about a school all the way down in Florida who had a paraprofessional, which is not a teacher, I will explain that later, threaten the lives of the students that he worked with. So no, the title of this video is not clickbait, guys. We're going to talk about it in a second.
Dozens of parents showed up today to take their kids out of Sabal Point Elementary School following reports of an employee there making threats against students. WESH 2 News investigative reporter Greg Fox has been there all afternoon, joins us live now in Longwood. So, Greg, this had to be really scary. When did the school let parents know what was going on?
Less than 2 hours ago, according to a text message that was shared with me by one particular parent here at the school. And keep in mind, this incident happened 9 days ago. Outside the office at Sabal Point Elementary in Longwood, deputies were seen talking with parents, some of them clearly upset about what they picked up on social media neighborhood channels. Dozens of parents showed up throughout the afternoon to pick up their kids, not knowing what, if any, threat might remain.
It makes me terrified for our children.
Laura Mulconry is a Sabal Point parent and says the lack of communication about a potentially dangerous incident involving a school employee is disturbing.
The principal should have said what she was able to say to the parents. Then we wouldn't have this process right now where everyone's coming to get their kids from the school.
A paraprofessional is someone who works in a classroom with the teacher. So I was the classroom teacher. I have paraprofessionals in my room during certain bells out of the day. Typically they work with kids who are on IEPs, maybe even 504s. Sometimes they work with kids that are ESL students, English second language learner students. And what they do is they provide one-on-one assistance to students who need it, depending on what their needs are, as outlined in their plan. Sometimes it's help with actual academic things. Sometimes it's help with behavioral issues, things like that. That's a paraprofessional. They are not a teacher. They do not design lesson plans. They are not left in charge of classrooms by themselves. They're not even legally allowed to sub because they don't have they typically don't have a teaching certificate. In order to watch a classroom, you typically have to have a teacher certification or substitute teacher certification, and paraprofessionals typically don't have those. So if you're wondering if this person's ever been left alone in a classroom with these kids, the answer is they should not have been. I don't know if they have been. I'm just saying they should not have been.
Several hours after we arrived at campus asking questions, Principal Shannon Stokes messaged parents just before the afternoon bell saying Sabal Point administration was made aware that a paraprofessional with Sabal Point Elementary School self-reported concerning thoughts to the school resource deputy on September 24th. Based on this information, the employee was immediately placed on administrative leave pending the results of an investigation and has since tendered his resignation with SCPS. He has not been on campus since this incident.
So if you want to know why the principal most likely did not tell the parents right away, because I believe later on the video will tell you exactly how long it is. I want to say that it was 9 days later after all this happened that they notified the parents. The reason typically schools, whether it's the principal, the superintendent, whatever, they typically cannot notify parents of certain things. Usually has to do with employment issues. So for example, this employee was placed immediately on administrative leave, but at the same time, Florida, although it's an at-will state, it's also a state that has teachers unions. And if you know anything about unions, whether they're teachers or not, I don't care if they're teachers, police officers, railroad, longshoremen, I don't care. If you know anything about unions, they all have a process put in place before you can fire an employee. Now, this guy was not a teacher, so he was not part of the teachers union, but little known fact, paraprofessionals are usually part of their own union too. So this person, being a paraprofessional, which is not a teacher, by the way, they are not a certified teacher, do not call this person a teacher. That is one thing they are not. They probably have steps in their union contract that this district has to fulfill before they can even speak on why this person was being disciplined and why this person was fired, or even if they were fired. Frequently, if you go and you look at your minutes for your school district and they are public, they should be on your school's website. You'll see that sometimes what the school board will do, they'll go into an executive session to discuss an employment issue with an employee, but it will never say what it is. That's probably because it's part of the person's contract. So I don't want to say it's because the school didn't find it important to tell parents, about this employee. It's more the fact that they have a legal process they have to follow. Those contracts are legally binding, meaning if they violate those at all, they can be sued by the person they're trying to fire. And they probably will be. So I know some of you, that's not a really good answer. That just makes you angry, but that is the answer. That's the factual answer. I'm not saying that for your feelings. I'm telling you that's most likely why this person and their issues were not brought to light earlier for the parents to know.
West 2 News is not identifying the paraprofessional, an employee who helps teach but is not a certified instructor. But according to the petition for risk protection order, the school district is seeking to permanently bar him from campuses because he poses a significant danger of causing personal injury to themselves or others in the near future. Specifically, deputies spoke to the man in reference to being Baker acted earlier at his job at Sabal Point Elementary.
So being Baker acted means that you are exhibiting some type of behavior or mental health issue or situation that requires that someone can forcibly make you be examined or even potentially committed. That's what Baker acted means. So it's an actual thing in Florida. I don't know if it's a thing anywhere else. Baker acted basically means that you were showing enough signs of instability mentally and behavior wise that, hey, we probably need to get you examined and you need to be committed and you don't get a say. That's a short answer. Just in case you were wondering.
He stated he was frustrated with a 6-year-old girl on the 23rd and thought about cutting her throat with a knife the next day at school. Then he stated that on the way to work, he thought about beating the 6-year-old child to death in the classroom. In another statement, the employee said he had thoughts about bringing a gun to the cafeteria and shooting children. It makes parents we talk with wonder why they weren't told sooner.
So by releasing information, they jeopardize the investigation. They also jeopardize being sued, and then they also jeopardize their potential of firing this employee. That's most likely why they didn't know.
I'm comfortable with picking up my child if I'm not getting the full story, and I'll get the full story later, hopefully, but communication is key.
You know, I agree with her. Communication is key. And when I say these things about how contracts work, I'm not saying it because I think that this is the correct way to handle something like this. I'm just telling you from a legal standpoint when it comes to employment law and how unions work. The district most likely was not able to tell parents. Most likely they were not. That might not be a good enough answer for some of you, but it kind of is what it is. When you just start spouting out information, you don't have the whole story. That's how things get misconstrued. If you say something that's not true about this employee, they can sue you. If you do something that's not a part of how this employee, with the agreement they signed with their district, how their investigations work, how cutting contracts works, if you do anything outside of that, the district will have no grounds to fire this person, and then they could also be sued. So I understand 100%, especially as a parent myself, the frustration. I would be frustrated too, but since I was a teacher for 10 years, I also know how this works, and that's exactly, I don't want to say that is the reason, because I'm not this district, I'm gonna put words in their mouth, but I'm guessing that is the reason why these parents didn't know. But those are very, very, very concerning statements to make, and they're very serious allegations too. This isn't just like, oh, my teacher made fun of me, or like what was that other teacher that's been in the news recently? Like she sang a birthday song and she said that like the kid looked like a monkey. He lived in a zoo. You look like a monkey. You smell like one too. And the mom was upset about it because the mom has never heard the birthday song sung like that. I have. That's a totally different video. It's a different video. It's not about this. It's not something like that. Like he threatened to unalive a 6-year-old. There's nothing a 6-year-old could do to warrant a response like that. There's nothing elementary school kids can do to warrant a response like that. So absolutely this person needed to be fired. And I absolutely understand why parents are fearful for their child's safety. I definitely would be, but it sounds like this guy hasn't been on campus since then. They're trying to get a protective order. So the district is actually doing everything in their power that they can do. They're just doing it within the rules of an employee. This isn't just some random schmo off the street. Like if there was some dude just like walking around making the threats, that's completely different. I'm sure they absolutely would have told you right away that happened. But because this is an employee, it's a little bit different.
Obviously, when you read this risk protection order, it shows a mental health history with this particular employee, again, who is no longer here at Sabal Point Elementary School. It lists another incident that happened back in February in which she was listed as disoriented, who was described as autistic. No criminal charges were brought then. We asked the school district if they knew about that incident. They said no, they were not aware of it, but they said that they did do a background check. The next court hearing for this man is October 9th. Covering Seminole County, live in Longwood, Greg Fox, West 2 News.
So there were two things at the end of this that I also wanted to point out. He says that, he makes a point to notice, the news broadcaster, that this employee was autistic. Now, I don't know, like the way he said it, I can't tell if like they knew for sure he's autistic or they're speculating, but either way, I wanted to say as someone who has Asperger's themselves, this is not indicative of being autistic. Like, I know people talk about mental health struggles, and being on the spectrum comes with its own mental health struggles. I can attest to that. This is not related to being autistic. And I don't want people to think that an autistic person, like you can tell by the way I'm speaking, that I don't have like a cognitive limitation because of Asperger's. I might have some social cues that I don't understand and things like that, but I'm not unstable because I have Asperger's. I'm not unstable because I'm on the spectrum. And I don't want to put that on anyone, especially because this guy works with kids. And this stigma not only affects adults, but it can affect little kids too. This is not an indicative behavior of autism. So we're going to put that out there. I don't know why this broadcaster even mentioned that. It doesn't excuse what he said either. So autistic or not, he should absolutely, in my autistic professional opinion, should be held accountable for what he said, as if he didn't have Asperger's or autism, whatever it is that he has. He absolutely should. That should not play a role at all in the consequence that he gets. The second thing I wanted to point out too was that they say in the video that this guy did that the district did a background check on this man, and they probably did. One of the things I noticed in the comment section from this news article where I found this video is people were asking, why don't schools do background checks? You gotta do background checks. Well, here's the problem. If there's nothing to pull up on a report, like the guy's never been arrested or anything like that, even if he's been in the hospital, that's HIPAA. So even if he's been in the hospital for mental health illnesses, the district would never know about that. Like, you have to have like a criminal record. If he didn't have one, it's not going to show up. It just isn't. I hate when people ask this stupid question. Why didn't the district do a background check? They did, boo. Stop asking that stupid question. They did. And people like to say, well, districts are just hiring anyone right now. But maybe in Florida they are, because Florida doesn't pay anyone enough to work in a school district, in my opinion. I don't care if you're a teacher, a para, even a principal, they don't pay you enough. But to say that districts are just hiring anyone, why don't they do background checks? They do background checks, but you have to understand how background checks work. If there's nothing to check because nothing's been documented, what do you expect an employer to do? Like, what do you expect them to do? It's mind-boggling to me that this guy was able, that he made a threat against a 6-year-old. And it's really strange to me that he went up to the school's resource officer and said something. To me, I don't know how to take that. Like, does that mean that he was trying to get help and he wanted help and he wanted to protect like the kids against him? Was it a warning, like, this is going to happen and you have like so amount of days to do this? Like, I'm a little interested in why the school resource officer, if you don't know who the school resource officer is, it's basically the police officer that's walking around the building. That's the SRO. That's what they go by, SRO. Sometimes they are actual police officers. Sometimes they're just hired by the district as security officers. But I found that very interesting. I did. So I don't know what that speaks to. I just think that's a little interesting that he chose to tell someone at the school that him having these feelings, and he has subsequently resigned, as he should. But the school district is looking to get a restraining order against this guy. So I don't want to say that the school district really did anything wrong. They most likely followed the processes they were supposed to follow. I do think that maybe it would be interesting, or maybe this is a lesson for school districts in general, including anyone that I've taught at or anyone that I might teach at in the future. This might be something to explore if your staff member is posing an active threat such as that one. Like, because you don't really hear about staff members having threats like that against kids, like actually trying to stop them from breathing. Like, you don't hear about stories like that. You hear about other ones, but never one that's like your kid's not going to come home at the end of the day about a staff member. So it might be worth exploring in teacher contracts and unions and in negotiations. Maybe you should put something in like that in your contract, that if you pose a threat like that, maybe there's different steps you can take, especially if there's evidence. I don't know what those steps could be, but I don't really feel personally like the school district did anything wrong on the legal side and an employment loss like land. From a parent perspective, I feel a little bit different, because, you know, like if my kid is in a building with someone that's okay bringing pew pew in and harming my child, I want to know immediately. So I see both sides. I absolutely understand why parents are upset. I do. I think the parents that are having the reactions they're having right now I think it's completely reasonable. But from a professional standpoint, I also understand what the district did, what they did. So I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I don't really have any follow-up questions. Just tell me what you think. Leave a like and a comment. Please subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.